And welcome back, everybody, to the Gears Pro League Split 2, day number 9. I'm Taylor Reflections Noble, joined by the majestic, the educated Colin the Crow Clark, who's counting for whatever reason. But all I see in front of me, Colin, is Hive versus F&I. So what math are you doing?
You said it was day number 9, and I wanted to make sure I still had 9 fingers.
Yeah.
I could look. I got some. Oh my god! I do have 10 fingers. I usually play and I forget that I have thumbs because I don't normally play like I have thumbs because I'm terrible.
But that's not true, though, is it? That's
We're not talking about it.
True.
We're not talking about it.
We don't have to. We don't have to. We have a subject at hand as it is anyway, so
right.
it's fine. We can deviate. We got Hive and we got Fire and Ice. Now, Colin, these two teams have had their struggles, without question. Now, Fire and Ice has been in, with this roster, relatively this roster, obviously Nash is now there. They have been in at least for this new season, Split 1 and Split 2 now, with 2 rotations. I don't know why, but Nash, Toxic, Solar, and Rapids. Okay, so the big thing that I'm getting at is they've only beat 1 pro team, right? So let's see if they can get another one tonight. This roster has a lot of potential. I have seen them do very bad things to their opponents, Colin, but they still aren't getting wins.
They've been very good in spurts. The problem with this team is just if they reach that spurt, they get that shot on, they get that extra kill, and then it's like they're out of gas. Actually, I got a good analogy for this, and I have no idea if anybody's going to understand this, but it's like a good old combustible engine that still has a choke on it. If you cannot get the choke correct, you'll just flood the engine out with just straight gasoline, and it'll end up flooding the engine, and you'll sputter out. So it'll start up for like a second, but then you flood the engine and it shuts off. That's what happens. Is they try to they flood the engine. They get those first couple of kills, but then they sputter out. They don't have a maintain yet. They can't get to 60 miles an hour downshift and just cruise along the highway. They get to like 90, and then the engine starts smoking.
Like those 1959 Shoemakers, that just were terrible whenever you push in a choke. I have no idea if that's a car. I just made that up. Let's talk about our next team, though. It's going to be, let's talk about Hive, all right? Hive is a great team that has found success in multiple times, whether it be E-Days, whether it be here in Pro League, but again, still trying to find their identity, and I think that's the biggest thing. Toti, we've talked about him making rosters better, and I sincerely feel Hive has gotten better, but they haven't reached that level that I think they're happy with.
They're definitely not happy with where they are right now. Again, the reason they're not going to be as happy is because of the fact that they've got extraordinarily skilled players like Addvers and Gary. They know what they're capable of. Kardia knows where he has been, the level of heights that he's reached before on other rosters. And Toti, I mean, he was the bridesmaid for what? 2 tournaments in a row, 3 majors in a row. He came in second place. So he knows what it's like to get just to the precipice of the top of the mountain and not be able to get over that hump. Toti knows what he has around him. That's, I think, one of the reasons he even was okay with being with this roster in the first place, formulating this roster, is because he understands the skill ceiling that the 3 guys around him have. Tonight's going to be a completely different test because the pressure is going to be mounted like never before on both of these teams for 2 big reasons. One, this helps you avoid relegation.
Right.
And 2, Toti probably wants a little revenge on this organization.
Yes. Toti probably does want revenge on Fire and Ice, and I think any time that you switch or transfer teams, you always got love or whatever for, the X roster that you're on or the X.
You were like, thanks for signing me, but now you got that.
But now you do want to beat them. And, that's whether it's against players or orgs, you always want to beat your old org. And we've seen them do that in the past. Will they be able to do it tonight? Now, there's 2 guys that we have to hone in on. One from Fire and Ice, one from Hive. And obviously I'm talking about Toxic, and I'm talking about Gary. Now, these guys are relatively even in a couple of areas, but we do see in the head-to-head Toxic taking a bit of a lead, not only in KDA, but also in damage per 10 minutes and kill participation, which is relatively even. That's, like splitting hairs at that point. But let's talk about the KDA and damage per 10 minutes. That's going to be a big lead, at least in my opinion, for Toxic, because he's engaging a bit more. Again, not that big, 10,300 to 11,000. But I think similarity-wise, you got to give Toxic the edge because he has that KDA. He's got a little bit better stats, but he also makes a big impact on the battlefield. And you join that alongside that of Nash, Solar, and Rapids, like F&I is scary.
Well, the thing that you're looking for out of Toxic is that he ends up being he's getting a little bit more help, whereas Gary is relied upon a little bit heavier to be kind of a star when he gets into those initial fights, when he gets into those first few engagements. He's looked upon a little bit more to kind of, you've got to pull up your pants and make a move by yourself. You're going to have to win that fight. It's on you. It's not on us. Whereas Toxic, it's like, we got to help Toxic out. We got to give him a little bit of Lancer damage. We got to make sure that he's able to get around the map safely and securely because we know what he can do when he has the extra help over the top. And I think that becomes kind of the difference you see in the stat line. I think, sometimes you look at stats and you get kind of lost in the sauce for what they're able to do on the map because of what their teammates are doing for them. So in my opinion, I think those two guys, while their stats are similar and you give the edge in the stats and the numbers department to Toxic, I think if both them boys were to end up in a 1v1 spot and they're not getting any help over the top, I think you're going to end up seeing Gary probably take a lot more of those head-to-heads.
Okay, fair enough. I think one big key takeaway also is that kill participation, with it being literally 1/4, and in Toxic case, a little bit, I think actually in both cases, a little bit over 1/4. If they're struggling and having a bad game or a bad series, that team is going to hurt a lot. You're literally missing 1/4 of your damage, 1/4 of your kills. That's a lot to be missing out on. So I put a lot of emphasis on Toxic and Gary today in this matchup. But I love that you brought it down to if they are in a head-to-head battle, if they are in a 1v1, despite Toxic having the better percentage and the better stats, you could assume that Gary is going to be a little bit more comfortable head down in that fight. Either way, it's going to be a battle tonight just because, again, you mentioned it best, and I want to break it down a little bit more, Colin. Relegation, trying to avoid that. Right now, Fire and Ice, they are in position to be relegated, but Hive isn't safe. They're not safe just yet. These next two matches, not only the one tonight against F&I, but also tomorrow against E United, are critical. This one, though, is the most critical, in my opinion, because look at this. So if Fire and Ice beats Hive tonight, even if they have the same record, they're still going to have the head-to-head, which means Hive will be relegated. Fire and Ice, they're going to avoid that, and then the same thing could be said if Hive also goes 0-2, because let's not count them out. If they're going to play against E United, I put E United as the favorite. I think everybody would. But if Hive does beat E United and loses the series tonight, they will, technically, avoid it. But regardless, they need to beat Fire and Ice tonight. Like there's no getting around it, Colin.
I thought for a second, I heard you say E United a few times in a minute, and I thought you was asking me to reach for the hat. I was like,
no,
you talking E United now? I can talk about it.
Not yet.
Talk about it real quick.
Not today. Not today.
Don't tempt me. Don't get me all out the bullpen on my E United.
Hey, we
stuff.
know.
No, I look at it the same way from the idea of, I think Toti probably has prepared these guys all week, all last week. Their practices have probably been very centered on understanding and accepting the situation of, let's just beat Fire and Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, we can roll out a spawn and take the best fight we can against E United.
Right.
But let's know everything we can know about Fire and Ice. Let's game plan for Fire and Ice. Let's make sure that Fire and Ice doesn't beat us. I'm pretty certain that's how he's looked at it, because at the end of the day, Toti doesn't want to go from a top 3, top 4. I think it was top 3 was what they finished in the last major. They lost to the Pittsburgh Knights, who then went on to be in that grand finals.
Right.
They finished top 3. He doesn't want to go from top 3 in a major to getting relegated. Hail to the no.
Yeah.
Big double L. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He really does not want to be put in that position, and he's smart enough. And Addvers is right there with him. Addvers doesn't want to be relegated. That guy's got a legacy to uphold and really put forth the right look for anybody potentially maybe they want to scout for, whatever it might be. So they've probably game planned for a full 4 or 5 days. Since their last Pro League match, they've probably played their scrims, gone over VOD review, strictly on this Fire and Ice team. I would not be surprised if we don't see them kind of have answers for a lot of the strats we see out of Fire and Ice.
So it's interesting. So you just, talked about the mentality maybe, and it's all hearsay. We're just theory crafting at this point. We don't know for sure, but, for Hive, maybe they've done their due diligence. They've done their research. You talked about legacies, Addvers. You talked about the legacy of Toti, and I agree with you. To go from top 3 in a major, then down to relegation and be relegated, like that is a tough pill to swallow. That hurts. We know what Toti is capable of. Unfortunately, we know what happened with the old roster. So Now let's talk about Fire and Ice, though. Fire and Ice doesn't really have that legacy to worry about. They don't really have that legendary status to worry about. They didn't play. Well, they did play in the last major, but they didn't, find success per se. So they don't have to worry about any of that noise. They're just coming into the series just to play, And Fire and Ice, again, they've been in the bottom echelon or the bottom two teams of the bracket or of the Pro League standings down there with Discipline. So Fire and Ice literally has nothing to lose. So you got F&I who's, nothing to lose. Hive, well, they got everything to lose. It's going to be a different mentality, and I'm curious which one is going to end up ahead. But Colin, enough about that. Let's take a look at our maps and start theory crafting who's going to have the advantage here.
I immediately love that pick a checkout right there by Hive. They've been, they might have had their ups and downs on it, but Toti definitively knows how to play that map. He knows how to really rotate around that map and put pressure on his opponents, get his team in the correct positions. You see what Fire and Ice has done here. They picked up a heavy setup control that they can kind of get into the CQC because the fights over the hill break down into those Nasher battles. Then you go to that Training Grounds Escalation. That's their best bet because Training Grounds and Harbor, unlike Vaskar, boil down to initial heavy. Fire and Ice is like, let's win one fight against Hive every round and just try to put the best foot forward and strangle them out of rounds and win it that way. The thing that worries me is that Speyer could get out of hand for Hive. I think Hive is looking at this and they're probably a little comfortable. They're probably more comfortable in those middle maps. The thing that's going to get nasty is how they take the CQC fights over those corner hills on Regency and that initial hotel fight on Ephyra.
So I was taking a peek here. Speyer has been played by Hive during Pro League. The last time that they did, in fact, compete on it was very early on. It was against Rebel. They lost 155 to 300, as opposed to when we look at Fire and Ice, they haven't played on Speyer just yet. So is Fire and Ice a team that isn't well-versed on Speyer? Who knows? Go back to the last series, Rise versus Fury 1. I question Fury 1's pick, or not pick, but, playability going into Canals. They hadn't played it in Pro League. I hadn't seen it in E-Days. How well were they going to play? Well, that was one of the best, matchups we've seen yet. So it's going to be a toss-up, but this is Hive's match that they need to win if they want to avoid relegation. Now, let's talk about the team we think is going to end up finding success here, though. And just to cut it short, because I think we're getting loaded into the map, or at least about to start it, I'm going with Hive here. I still believe in Toti. Fire and Ice is a roster that still needs to prove themselves and prove their worth on the battlefield. I have a lot of questions, too, about Rapids. At times, I see him dropping the ball. He's oftentimes in the 1v spot. We have seen F&I kind of, switch that up and maybe send Solar over there. But regardless, though, Fire and Ice, they've got some learning to do. And I also think Hive is going to have an advantage on a certain map. Speyer, check out. I think this is their series. Colin, what about you?
I'm going to put it more on the man that we talked about earlier, as a matter of fact, that I pumped up a little bit. Even though I said he did not have the numbers to back it up, I think tonight we're going to see an MVP-like performance out of Gary. I truly believe that he will be probably the linchpin that leads Hive to victory, because they're going to have to rely on Gary to battle it out with some of these CQC fighters from Fire and Ice who want to be a little bit closer, who want to be a little bit faster. The best way to fight that in gears is to have somebody that can go just as fast. And I don't know many people on the planet that have the same kind of gear as Gary.
Yeah, Gary has been phenomenal throughout his Gears career, and I think tonight is going to be no exception. Chat. Now, this one could get a bit wild. You got Fire and Ice, you got Hive. Who do they really want to support? Might be even torn, in fact. I didn't look at the percentages, so this might be one that kind of breaks it up between me and you, Colin, as well as Twitch Tap. But no, they're going with Hive. So, you know what? Fair enough. I thought maybe they go with F&I, the young guns who have nothing to lose. But now they really have nothing to lose. Now they can prove us all wrong. This is a series where we can make our best educated guess, Colin, about who's going to find success, who is going to be the winner. But at the end of the day, man, I really don't know, and I don't think you know either, Colin, because Fire and Ice and Hive have both been quite inconsistent. They both have had their struggles, and with relegation on the line, that has the chance to really mess you up, and even legacies you talked about. So there's a lot of pressure here in multiple different ways that both teams are going to have on their shoulders.
Yeah, for Hive, they look around and they can kind of see, in my opinion, I look at Hive as being in the middle of a glass menagerie. They look around, they see a lot of pains, they see a lot of things that reflect who they are. They understand what they have around them. Fire and Ice, I see them still in the factory. I still see them as not knowing exactly who they are. They're still in the building process, trying to figure out how their pieces fit together to make possibly the perfect machine. I think what you're going to have to do if you're Fire and Ice is you're going to have to come out early and try to really take a good advantage over Hive. You're going to have to overwhelm them with a multitude of team fire and kills. And if you're Hive, you have to survive an initial wave. You have to make sure that your rotations are crispy and that you can find those angles to Lancer players out. Because if there's one thing that they can do better, in my opinion, than Fire and Ice, is almost guaranteed be those setups and those Lancer fires.
All right, well, let's get into it. Map number 1, Regency. And it's Fire and Ice and Hive for the spot to avoid relegation. Who will it be? F and I or Hive? We'll keep the conversation going in chat as we see the first breakaway attempt on Roses. Toti being the first entry fragger alongside that of Kardia on the opposite side. Kardia, actually, in conjunction with Addvers, will take down Solars. I just saw body parts flying and really confused me. I didn't even know who got it, but Nash will also fall. I don't see anybody getting their hands on the M-bar, but with all eyes on the hill itself, it looks like Hive is working well together.
Oh. Hive does an incredible job off of this initial. Gary's going to get taken out there by Rapids, and those nades are going to go over. Solar's going to pick up that M-bar. They have to come down through the middle of this map. One nade's going to cut them off. He's actually going to force that player back off to the left side, trying to find the extra average. The shock, though, in the hand of Toti. This is important because if he shocks out that corner, it's another 10 seconds away from the map. They can find this first kill and then push through that depleted shock grenade. I like this from Hive. They pull back to the backside of the Rose Garden. They force players into the front right. With every one of these kills, it's opening up that respawn. Look at that. Player number 8, Rapids, already comes out at the admin. Just about 10 to 20 seconds left on this hill, and already Hive is pushing toward point number 2. One player a little late to the fight as they go through the bottom middle of the map. This is where Fire and Ice needs to push at Hive. They've got to get up here and be able to get these kills early to not allow Hive to set up a second time onto the point.
It kills early. Will it be able to happen? Well, we do see the kill feed lighting up red as F&I picking up plenty of elims. Toti now tough spot. He'll drop. Kardia was just behind him, but he couldn't push up. In the meantime, now all eyes on him as he's forced to just duck and dive, man, as Fire and Ice refuses to allow him to gain any spacing. Obviously give him a second chance in that engagement. So well done from Fire and Ice to hold their ground still, though we do see Hive sneak through call, and they're going to be on the hill currently, but big moment for Toti and Gary as they're outnumbered.
Yeah, and you can see Toti trying to look out that back window. I like that he's able to stay in this cover much longer, and he gets the help from Gary. Gary with the up bait, now one more in front of him. Rody strafe out, the Lancer fire help. Gary comes through with 2 big eliminations and a full kill by himself on the up bait. That was extraordinary. Gary's going to rotate back into that spawn. Toti's going to push over to the middle stairwell, and this is a different Hive that I've seen in recent weeks. They are taking their advantages. They're trying to punish the mistakes of Fire and Ice. Gary might have overstayed his welcome, but Toti finds one on the reaction. Can't get the down on Solar. But my God, hey, look at the time they have amassed. It is almost 100-0. Taylor and a wrap shot from Addvers.
Oh my!
Down with a chunk out. Dance on him at this point. Hit him with the Hive. Hit him with the Hive.
I cannot believe that we were watching Fire and Ice control the second hill. I mean, the spawns. I mean, totally in control. And you look at the score and you said, were they really ever in control? 102-2. Are you kidding me? Hive playing on fire. And this is a map that Fire and Ice truly needs to come out swinging. Hive looking absolutely dominant and incredible. And even now, Fire and Ice can't even get within feet, within miles of the current hill. And the lead will continue for Hive.
You can see where Addvers is trying to look for this player in this corner. Shots on. He's going to roll back as the extra Lancer fire comes in from the 45-degree angle, though. I like what I see out of Addvers. He's playing safe. He knows he has the M-bar on his back. The first mark out comes. Addvers is going to continue back toward the backside of this hill because he knows he's got the length. He's got the advantage in the marksman category. All he's got to do is land body shots. First one hits those feet of the rolling player out of the cubby corner. Now hits a body shot onto Nash. He's full red. Rapids has to push in for the help. But look at the double shot downs. Look at the bait and switch. The old gefilte fish Hive once again do an incredible job getting the kills, getting back into the hill. They gave up, I think, maybe 1 or 2 seconds. 3. They gave up 3 seconds. Toti doesn't even have that many kills, but the man's got 11 assists already. Looking for the extra help from the big door. That's going to be Gary with a reaction. Gary needs one more shot, but he misses the secondary. He still shuts down that first push. Kardia has to know that the fight is coming from the stairwell, but again, the Lance of Fire peppers him up. Toxic goes down. The revive might go out. Can Kardia settle this into a 1v? He does indeed have to worry about Toxic, who has the meat shield, but look at Hive. They're rotating the T. Even though you lose that fight to Toxic, you've already got the position over the next hill. Fire and Ice, what is you doing, baby?
And Addvers from the shadows, catching Toxic off guard. Gary getting that M-bar. He'll get dropped. He needs to be picked back up, and he will. Addvers will be there. Fire and Ice does find a good foothold on the current hill, but I say good. What does that really even mean? Well, Rapids is by himself, and he will double back and get a kill, but he's going to quickly be finished off. The revenge in Hive's hands. We now are on the 4th hill, and Fire and Ice has amassed 6 points off of 4, or I should say 3 total hills in the current one. That is just absolutely unwarranted. I mean, at this point, Fire and Ice, are they even playing?
I mean, this is what I was talking about, though. Even though we think the pressure is on Hive, when I told you that I feel like Hive would have game planned for Fire and Ice, I think that's what they're doing by allowing Gary to play a little bit loose, like hang 10, try to get those reaction shot kills, because it's keeping them off balance. Normally, Fire and Ice would look at this Hive roster and say, oh, they're going to set up. Oh, they're going to Lancer out. Oh, they're going to try to set up and get early shots onto us. Whereas they're letting Gary get right up into their grills. This is the first real time Fire and Ice has answered back in the situation, but Toti still takes at least one with him. Gary's going to get a kill in the bottom middle. He's going to rotate to the top, and he's going to be double Lancer, but he stays alive an extra 2 or 3 seconds. 30 more seconds makes it 164 to 50. It's still a 100-point club situation, and Hive, they can easily use this to get the early rotation over to the next hill. So let's see how they do this next fight, because 3 players from Fire and Ice are going to push in through that Rose Guard. Kardia with a perfect flank. Perfect flank damage onto 1. Solar might go down, but he's got help there. He's got help. There's going to be somebody for the revive. Misroll at him. He misses the first shot, goes for the reaction, doesn't get it. Almost goes down, but they catch him out. Gary caught out Nash. This is perfect for Fire and Ice. They've got perfect for Hive, excuse me. They have to just get these kills. They're already at the hill. Taylor, this is a great showcase for what Hive is capable of if they can reach that next gear, if they can Lancer out for each other, they can team fire. You've been able to see what they're able to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. It really has. And their lane prioritization as well, Colin, has been fantastic. Even going back to Addvers being on that flank, taking an opportunity. Every time I look at the kill feed, I swear every single time it's blue. It's all blue because Hive is slaying out that hard. Speaking of which, thank you. I got to look at this because, I mean, all negative to be expected for Fire and Ice, but you look at the stat lines for Hive, I mean, just tearing it up. Addvers 12 and 6, Gary 15 and 8. You got Toti with 12k damage, even though he's 7 and 7, 0-0 with his KD8. He still has that damage to make it happen. And Fire and Ice, again, not even getting close. We're at 207 to 47. And again, Fire and Ice pushes in for another bit of a retake. Addvers puts the M-bar away, pushes down. Nash finished off, and another flawless team fight and a flawless cleanup from Hive.
Real quick, let me throw this out there for you, baby. One of the things that right there we saw is sitting in that cubby where Addvers had the M-bar out. Kardia was up top at the close respawn. Addvers didn't try to pressure out initially. He didn't go for the reaction shot on that first player that pushed him. He waited in that cubby for that player to be close enough to basically be a one-shot down because he knew he had the help. That is the difference right now between Fire and Ice and Hive. Good little trade out there. I don't care what anybody says. That trade out buys them time. They've got Toti over the close respawn, which will allow for them to spawn up at that statue and push straight back in. 35 seconds left on that M-bar, and you can't wait 35 seconds. You don't have time anymore if you're Fire and Ice. You've got to try to push up. You got to try to stack up and get into this hill. The marks from this big window are crucial because all that extra damage is going to possibly lead to downs, which is going to make it that much harder for players from Fire and Ice to push into the situation. You can see the damage trap they have set up. One player jumps out the back and Kardia knows it. All he's got to do, one shot down. There's the chunk. He couldn't get the second shot off, but Addvers, he comes on the flank. There's a shot in the down, and now he's got help from Toti. Back A out from Toti. They're back into the hill, counting up time. Tick, 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 tick. How much time do you have to waste on a fight like this, Fire and Ice? You out the back? No. Somebody better let security know that they're getting robbed at the front counter.
That's the 4th or 5th M-bar now into the hands of Hive. Kardia this time around will have it. Good on Fire and Ice, though, to break the hill finally and get the remaining points on this current hill, at least 30 or so seconds. Hive, though, they're not done just yet. They are going to make one attempt to push in. 30 seconds, a bit too much to allow, one team to get away for free. So we will see Solar at the front lines holding his ground. We did see a great shot from Rapids on the Toti, but Gary managed to sideswipe him and get him out of the way. Toti finds a way to get his hands onto the nades. We might see Fire and Ice break 100 points. It won't be off of this hill, but maybe some new life from Fire and Ice. Honestly, because Hive hasn't reached 250, maybe there's a chance. Maybe, just maybe, but the positioning, the team firing, the ability to be able to process the M-bar and the power weapons as well as the extra nades and everything has just been flawless. We're back to the original start, and Kardia is just hitting every potential shot he can. 2 with the M-bar. He won't get Solar, but his teammate will.
Toti, he's going to clean up that kill after the down on Solar. They're going to be inside of that Rose Garden Hill. They're going to call out that both of those players are coming in from the top right, that P2 Addvers. He goes on a flank here. He gets that first shot, hides down behind that big armchair. Toti throws out one nade, gets the kill on a Toxic, and now that teammate from Fire and Ice, I believe that's Nash, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's stuck between a Toti and a Kardia. And now Addvers, he gets the double down up here. It's a double down at P2, and Kardia has a free run. A rerun to try to go for that revive, because whether or not they keep hold of the hill is irrelevant, Taylor. Yeah. 19 seconds to go, and P2 is going to spawn where those 2 players are going to be at. Come on now.
It doesn't even matter. 30 seconds. This is a win, man. Hive is in it, bro. Hive is in it to win it. 300 to 81. I think that's going to be all she wrote. Now, at the beginning of this series, did I expect a scoreline like that? Absolutely not. But that is exactly what we got. And you know what? That's what we need to see from Hive. They take a 1-0 lead.
Beautiful map won by Hive. I really believe that they were going to be able to outmaneuver. They were going to out-game plan Fire and Ice. And you could see the difference in the game plan. Carry 23, 11, and 12. Double. So he has what? 35 kills and assists to 11 deaths plus a whole lot of damage to his name. Those are the things that I think they game plan for, is they gave Fire and Ice the look they didn't expect. They said Fire and Ice is going to set up. They got Kardia and Addvers and Toti. They got 3 kind of IGL-ish Lancer players. Mm-hmm. No way they're going to push up on us.
Yeah.
So Toti said, watch this. Watch this. Gary said, it's time. It's time. Speaking of it's time, it was like Toti put up the bat signal. He said, Gary, I'm going to need you to come into Gotham and put some hurt on people. I'm going to need you to put some hurt on people.
Little Batman reference. The Batman coming through big. All right, going to be the sponsor of our next Gears Major. I'm excited for that, brother Colin. I didn't see that coming, but I'm happy it's here, man. It's something I didn't know I needed, but now that it's here, I needed it the whole time.
Well, look, it just goes to show, my man, that whether you're a Caped Crusader or a Dark Knight, everybody knows how gritty Gears can get. And when you want to talk about how this movie looks, this thing looks down and gritty, down and gritty. And that's exactly what Gears can be. I know Regency might be a big and bright map, but you see all them body parts laying everywhere.
All
you
of
see
them.
The chunks.
And you know what? That was a present given by Hive. All right, 120 to 3. That stat line, it really tells you everything you need to know. Actually, it doesn't, because 142 to 3. So it got even worse. Fire and Ice had, one of the worst starts I have seen in a long time, and it might have been a tough pill to swallow, 164 to 18, but even the final 300 to 81, guys, that is not what you need. And I kind of go through and, Nash, I mean, do I really even need to point anybody out on Fire and Ice? It was a team effort. It's not anybody's fault, aside from everybody collectively as a unit. Hive played in a manner and in a fashion that could make them very scary against any roster out there, because they utilized that teamwork. They didn't just try to outslay F&I, which we have seen Hive do from time to time, Colin, but we didn't see that here. We saw the teamwork and the great shots being hit, and that right there, to me, is so encouraging to see. I know Hive is down at the bottom echelon of our, pro standings, but I would love to see this Hive in this manner play in the major.
Without a doubt, this Hive is scary for anybody in any situation. Checkout coming in with a map that already under the belt of Hive. This looks even scarier, in my opinion, because how Hive and Toti knows how to play Checkout. Fire and Ice are going to have to get real tough real quick coming into map 2 if they don't want to go down 2 maps to nil, because I was fully impressed by Hive right there, because the way that they were able to take the fight to Fire and Ice, they really did out game plan them. They outthought them, and there was a lot of times where you saw it. They played up into Fire and Ice, whereas Fire and Ice kept trying to get numbers together. They were like, all right, let's get 2 or 3 of us and Wolfpack in. Well, there won't no waiting. There won't no you gonna be able to get 2 or 3 together. No, they pressured them. Hive kept them staggered out. That's the scary thing in that control, that Hive was able to do that to Fire and Ice. Coming in here with 1 life to live on execution might be a little bit different of a story if Fire and Ice can figure out how to get away from the extra fire from Hive.
We've seen teams find success on this map by just being purely aggressive, specifically whether it be for the plat, but also for that sniper down low. And I think Fire and Ice might need to adjust and try something like that. I go back, though, when Fire and Ice wasn't finding success on checkouts, and that was when they were just avoiding the top end of things. They were giving the nades away for free or giving a flank away for free, which is something they might have to address here in this matchup as we head into checkout. I was kind of looking at the stats. Fire and Ice, this is a map that they don't prefer, and if they don't prefer it, they don't get to game 4s. That's just kind of the reality. So for Fire and Ice, the last time they played on checkout was against Fury 1, and it was very early in split 2, and they lost 1-6. But that's not as scary as it sounds, because I did have a chance to watch or check out, this map here, checkout for Hive, and they did play against Fury 1, and they still lost that against them 3-6. So relatively same stat line, but the reality is Hive has more experience on checkout, and they also have close series against great teams like KCP. So they still have to be the favorite here. And Toti on this platform fight, right? He is the X factor that is either makes success for Hive or not.
I like that from Fire and Ice early, where they tried to get off the platform, but it was almost like a bait and switch. As soon as they rolled off the platform, the 2 players from Hive that took over that mid lane had all the perfect shots on. Toxic and Solar go down early. Toti's the only one to die off for the side of Hive. And now it's a 3v2, and you can see Gary trying to hold this angle here. He's trying to find body shots to make life easier for his 2 partners. Ooh, I took a big deep breath right there. I thought he was about to hit that shot. I said, oh, we're going to blow his brains out.
He's going to try. He's going to try maybe swing it wide. He'll back up. No worries. Hive not scared to play the long game, maybe even rotate out. Give Fire and Ice the space to maybe overexpose themselves. Addvers does get the nades. That's going to be 1 extra utility item. With the way Hive backing up, you got to assume we'll be seeing that overtime he'll potentially be in electronics, but I don't know. Gary, big shot on the Rapids, but won't connect just yet. Second chance onto Nash. He'll hold back. Nades out, forcing Rapids and Nash out. Actually, it's going to be a hit marker. So will we see a big body? No, we will not. 1 more nade. It's going to be thrown. Now split the 2, split the dividend once again, and that's going to be a synchronized kill. Synchronized finished off, and Hive will take round 1.
Nothing has to be nothing has to be fancy for Hive right there. I like what they did. They kind of played that almost overly simplistic. Gary not once, yeah, he looked for the headshots, but you saw it. He was just, if he could tag in the body, he took the shot. He said that's 60%. That's an easy shot for somebody to get that down and maybe clean up that kill. They played that so smart and so simple. Picking up the fragmentation grenades, getting those body shots. That was perfect by Hive, if you ask me. Now they're early into this next fight, and Hive already getting that first blood with Toti. And now Kardia picks up the Incendiary. He's going to try to rotate him out here. Nash is going to go down in the middle of the map. Nobody's going to be there to pick him up. 4v2 on the map right now. 3, oh my goodness gracious, 1v4, and Solar, he got burned up, and it won't even buy them Incendiaries. He was just on that platform and got shot by 3 different people.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. Toti is a guy that you have to shut down on this map. We've seen him do miraculous things, but the scary thing about Toti is he commands attention on platform, even though he only has 1 kill, mind you, and Gary is carrying the torch with 5 eliminations. Toti still disrupts that fight so well on the platform that you just got to deal with him. You really do. But all eyes on Gary, as we said, 1 first blood. He's got 5 kills to his name, and let's find really why he's being so successful. He's got a 3-man push from Fire and Ice down low, and Nash hits a beautiful shot on Addvers, but Toti evens it up with his own incense.
Looking for the back of the skull of Gary. Good ensign evens it up. 6 shots left. There it is. Kardia trying to run away. He clacks that player right off the back of the shoulder blades, right through the top of the spinal cord. Incendiary out toward the platform. Toti trying to push up. Nash gets the call out. Nash is looking for the body
Whoa!
shot. Yikes.
Was that an ace with the sniper?
I believe that was.
My lord, where'd that come from, Nash? We need more of that, my guy. That, in fact, was an ace. Picks up all 4 with sniper. That was the first one, and that shot right there was just, he was deadly. Kardia wanted to even run away from that one, and I don't blame him. And that was the 3rd one on to Gary, and then the finish onto Toti. My lord, Nash. That we need to see more of that, my guy.
I'm just going to tell you right now, Hive is like, I don't know what just happened, but that round doesn't exist. We ain't talking about it. We ain't going to mention it. Nobody's talking about it. Nash gets a lot of damage there on to, I believe, Toti as he pushes across. They get Addvers with a long shot now. 3 players kind of stacked up right there. Downs galore coming through. Solar steps up, but I thought he was going to get that chunk. Addvers misses the shot on the player slide, and they're trying to trade out right here. They finally get 1 down. 1 player left to live. And Fire and Ice, they go down 3-1, and Taylor, that's a great answer. Look, you take away the long shot play, it forces Fire and Ice back into the incendiaries. Yes. And they proved through the first 3 rounds that they ain't really got a good handle on that fight.
Not at all. Fire and Ice. Ooh, geez. There's 3 guys without any kills. And I know who's got them all. It's Nash, clearly. We saw that earlier with that big ace. That's great. You know, Nash played very well there, but he needs the rest of the team to truly help him out. If Fire and Ice is going to attack this platform side consistently, you got to deal with Toti. Who's going to be unstunned first? Well, it seems as if Toxic actually does get away, but look at those kills coming through from Hive. This is about to be all she wrote, and in fact, it will be 4-1, 19 seconds. And you know what? That's a pretty interesting round, Colin, because we do see, for the first time, Fire and Ice get their hands on the ensigns. But then that's all they got.
Get your hands on it, but can't get your hands on the round. I think Hive has just done a more phenomenal job of doing team damage. Everybody from Fire and Ice is getting tagged up from everywhere. I mean, I talked about it a few rounds ago when Solar was the last live. He was getting shot by 3 different people. 3 different people were looking at Solar. They weren't trying to give him an angle. They weren't trying to give him an out. They got rid of him as quick, fast, and in a hurry. Kardia is going to get that pick on the incendiary. Solar goes down. Toxic gets chunked out. Now Solar gets traded off. Or, excuse me, gets picked up, cleaned out. Nash is going to get 1 shot over the top, but Gary comes in to try to play a little superhero, but hey, yo, my man Toti said, no, it's my kill. It's my kill. Oh, no, it's my kill.
I think it's because Toti's got to catch up a little bit. Toti's got to catch up, Colin, because I think Gary's outshining him. Look at that guy. 11 kills for Gary, Colin. 4 first bloods. He's looking like Detox.
I don't want to ask the voice of God to do this, but can we get a clip in the replay package of when I said that Gary was going to have an MVP performance? Can we get a clip of that and play that out?
You did say that. Hey, you did say that. You did say, you said, you know what? Gary's going to be the guy to make it happen. Remember I mentioned also, too, if we get a Twitch clip of this, I said Fire and Ice doesn't challenge for the nades. Well, I'm joking. They're going to get punished. Solar's going to get first blooded. That's 2 now down for F&I. They're on the last leg. Gary gets 13. Will he get the cleanup for 14? Yes, sir, he will. And he's going to let F&I know what he really thinks about him. Take it away, Colin. Oh, he only did it once?
I'm over here waving it off, baby.
Man, I was about to say why you hitting yourself, but we didn't get that.
No, he baited it. He was like, why you ain't even worth it right now. You ain't even worth it.
All right, well, there it is. Gary MVP performance, 14 elimination, and Hive is cruising their way to victory and also cruising their way to avoiding relegation. And much needed answer is needed in map number 3, Training Grounds, as we see Hive lead 2-0. Map number 3 coming up next, Training Grounds Escalation. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, everybody, to Gears Pro League Split 2, day number 9, the final week of Gears Pro League for Split 2 before we head into our major next weekend. But my lord, we have seen 2 dominant maps come out from the side of Hive. Fire and Ice not looking like a solid competition for F&I at all, Colin. I mean, look, Regency 300 to 81. Check out 6-1 Hive, victorious in both.
Incredible map number 2 to follow up map number 1 by Hive. There was a part of me that was concerned they might not be able to follow that performance up. They might not be as dominant in map 2, but they came out on all cylinders. And I don't know where Fire and Ice is based out of, but they might want to make a few phone calls to the friendly Northeast of the USA, because they look like they might be sponsored by Dunkin' right now, because look at them donuts!
Sponsored by Dunkin', and not the good one either, all right? Not the donuts either, okay? Zeros across the board, Colin. Well, excuse me, not across the board. Not across the board. We got to give respect to Nash.
They had 3 donuts, all right?
Yep.
That's like me on an early, like, Thursday morning. I get at least 3 of them in there. 2 jelly-filled and a glaze, baby. I'm telling you right now, I'm a fat boy.
So Solar went 0-6 and 0. Didn't even have an assist. He had 2k damage. At least Rapids and Toxic had assists, but Nash was the only one who had kills. And mind you,
4 of his 6 kills were the same round.
Same round where he got the ace, where he literally got the ace with the sniper. A magnificent play. So Nash, but it's just, that is, you go from getting beat down and losing in such a dominant way on Regency. You need an answer, and a swift answer on map number 2. Even if you lose, you got to perform better than that. Now you're going into map number 3. You're going into training grounds. Fire and Ice has never really been like an upper echelon escalation team to begin with. Those first 2 maps were a must win. I'm very disappointed. I got to be straight up with you. I expected this series to go the distance. I even said it as a joke, actually, when we transitioned from the Rise, Fury 1 matchup. I said, well, get ready for a long series, because I thought Hive and Fury, Fire and Ice were going to go map 4, map 5. Not the case at all. Not the case at all. Fire and Ice has been non-existent. And chat said I was mean earlier for saying something like that. But what else am I going to say? You got 3 guys who don't drop a single kill on checkout, and then you lose 300-82 on map 1 Regency. And mind you, the large majority of that round was 140, 150 to 3. It's unacceptable, and you're a pro league team. Fire and Ice, I know you're not an escalation team, but seriously, we got to see more here. Make it at least competitive on map 3.
You shouldn't have talked about donuts.
I'm telling you, man.
I did it to myself, brother. Like, I'm so mad right now, because I was like, I finished off speaking, and I said, man, I'm not gonna want donuts until the morning. And I said, nope, I want some now. I want some,
and you know what? You are one to snack
some.
As well. You are one to snack. So let me know if you pull up with the whole box of donuts heading into I don't even know our final series of the day. Fire and Ice fighting for their life, and they won't get a touch. That's going to be a domination right in their face.
Hold up. I know it's only 1 round, but hold up. They got 2 more donuts toward that dozen. No, they got 3 more. They got 6. They got a half a dozen donuts, baby.
Will it be a baker's dozen, though?
Yo, if we could get to 12 donuts, if we could keep players from Fire and Ice from having kills long enough for us to get to 12 donuts after rounds of escalation, oh, come on.
And what if it'd be a 5-0-2? Then you stack on another donut. Like I said, now you got 13, you got a baker's dozen.
God.
I hate to talk like this. I really do, but like it's just the way
I don't at all.
I know
baby.
you don't. I'm the nice guy. Hey, look,
hungry.
I'm the nice guy. All right, but it's just All right, let's see what's going to happen. Round number 2. Big fight now on Overlook, as to be expected. Gary's going to get the first drop onto Nash. Quickly answer. The Solar will get the finish on the Gary. Some new life coming up from Fire and Ice, forcing Hive back. They have definitive control on Overlook, and they're also on the neutral. Well done from Toti to see that he had lost to Overlook fight. I need to help Kardia get on the neutral. At least give Hive some sustenance, as well as some ability to be able to come back into the fight. Fire and Ice, though, all the advantage in the world, still doesn't get the 2-1. Nash will take down Gary. Now he's got to go opposite of Addvers. And Addvers looking to win this fight. He does it. Well done from Nash. He continues to prove his worth here, not only from checkout to also training grounds.
See what they can do here.
It.
Rapids is going to push back. Good shot on. That should be around.
Let's go.
Fire and Ice answer back. They do break, they break kind of a hold that Hive has had over them. I know they won around there on execution as well. And they don't, look, the only donut left is Addvers. All right, he's the only one munching left. All right. I just need donuts now. Like, I'm so messed up in the head, brother.
I wish
you'd
stop saying donuts. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I can't get my mind right anymore.
I wish you start saying zero instead of donuts, man.
I can't get there.
You said you did it to yourself. You did it to me, Colin.
I'd look. You want me to hit him with the you better call Owen?
I've called him many times just to kind of talk it out, about my mental stuff.
You gotta have a little locker room break. You gotta be like, look, Owen, I ain't mean this, man.
I got that guy on speed dial. I'm gonna be honest with you. I got.
It's like
all I have to do is press one.
He is too.
Exactly, man. Hey, Owen is a real homie for real. But hey. Round number 3, Fire and Ice. They keep it competitive 1-1. Rapids, I like that cross on the Gary. And I think it's being answered back in the opposite end by Kardia. Nobody able to make a move just yet. So we're going to be at a bit of a standstill. Our first standstill. But it looks like Fire and Ice actually taking the reins going forward. Tons of damage. There's the drop. And a play trying to be made from Toxic, but he's going to be sniffed out by Addvers. And all of a sudden, it looks like Hive might win the Overlook fight, but Solar keeping it competitive, but he's got a couple of loose ends to tie up, gets the trade. That was a good effort.
Kardia now in a 1v here at the B Hill. Gets shot on early. He has to look over the top. Rapids trying to keep himself out of harm's way here toward the backside of the B Hill. Kardia can't hit that big shot. And Taylor, that's something that I go back to, and I'm not trying to pick on it, but that has always been my big concern with this Hive team. You keep putting Kardia in 1v spots, and that's the thing that he has struggled with probably the most historically in his career. And you see it right there again. Kardia, if he wins the B Hill against Rapids, it buys a ton of time for his team to come off the spawn, for them to rotate around the map. But instead, he loses it. Now it's Hive that has to fight back from behind.
87 now. It's 80. Fire and Ice with the 2-1. Hive figure out what they're going to be up to. Big shots, though, up ahead. Solar opposite of Toti. Still underway. My lord, Solar feels the advantage. Goes for the push. Toti reads him like a book. Runs into yet another enemy. The final boss, I guess, in that fight, which was Nash, who is just tearing it up in this series as a whole. But, I mean, that's easy to say when we haven't seen much of anything, really, but we do see Hive taking a 2-1 back to 30 points down, and Addvers with the blindside on the Nash, and a door has opened to go for a domination.
Trying to get into that next hill. You can see them going over this BE hill right here. Going to get a double decap onto it, ensure that they can try to keep their point lead, try to keep their positioning as well. But a double down comes in because they had the help over the top, and they had the extra help inside of the hill. Toti's there by himself. He's going to try to pistol out as much as he can. Will anybody make it to that heaven to try to help out here? A flash will come in late. Toti has the secondary flash because of the meat shield pickup. Now he gets the shot over the top. There's a good kill. And oh, baby, a little love tap. Too early, in my opinion, to do that on this round, as it's 175 to 160. You got to make sure that you can solidify this round before you go down. Unsure what they can come away with this.
So I'm all for some additional love, man. That's why I'm always talking about Hndles, showing love out there on the battlefield. But you're tied 1-1, and like you said, the scoreline is just now favoring Hive, and it's quickly going to go back over towards Fire and Ice. So it's too early. You got to keep your head in the game. I don't think Hive is to the point where they can afford to do stuff like that. They need to put FNI in the grave, or else we could be seeing a close series. You're not gaining any benefit from showing love, in my opinion, that early on. And even now, look, all hills are going to be messed around with. This is very winnable from both sides. A nice shot from Toti. That's going to put it to a 1v against Nash, and that is going to solidify it. Hive will, in fact, win round number 3 to bring it 2-1, but it got scary for a little bit there, Colin. There was a point where Fire and Ice looked competitive.
Let's go, Santiago. Addvers with the big brain play anyway. Let's just say something catastrophic was happening elsewhere on the map and they didn't get their home hill back yet. Addvers realizes that they weren't able to that they had to stop that decap. As that player stood in the hill and was going for the cap, Addvers realized he's in a 2v1, he's probably going to die anyway, and then he just up-A's into the hill anyway. He said, I'm going to make sure it stays neutralized for a few more seconds just in case. Little plays like that, keep those in mind for when they possibly have to, go against a tougher opponent, and Addvers might be able to make that same play to keep them in a round, keep them in a match against a better team.
Right. Final round of the first half, Colin. We might see Fire and Ice keep it 2-2. Surprisingly, ensigns up top, no shocks. This is something that we have seen popularized specifically by Latin American teams, but it's also going to be implemented here. In the meantime, Nash, though, will get a nice opening kill on the Toti, and that should open up the door for Fire and Ice to once again have a solid initial, much like they did in round number 2 that they ended up winning. Toxic, though, gets caught out. He's going to fall. Solar goes for the pickup, exposing himself. He's going to drop as well. Fire and Ice in a bad situation, but they do find a way to break up. Addvers will drop. Gary forced out, and that was a great effort from F&I, Colin, to get the teamwork, to get the team pickups and the team revives, to overtake Overlook, and ultimately go home to home.
Now you see what Toti's going to try to do here is he's going to try to push across over to the opposite side of that shot. And you see him get the angle here onto Solar. Solar trying to go back into that U fight. Just trying to get back into a position now where they might be able to D up the home-to-home or maybe even take over a position to push back into B. I think if they can have... No, they're not going to have a player to the backside of the range. There might be a chance for somebody to push straight into B, hop over that trump, because... 2 players are going to have to Lancer anybody that hops over, but look at that. They get the down on the player coming in the middle. That should open up a world of advantage for the side of Hive if they can get the sec. Oh, my God.
Kardia's going to go ahead and fully commit for the overextension. Fire and Ice has 2 members on the battlefield, Rapids and Solar, but they've got to make a move. Solar now is going to be pushing up. We've lost Rapids, but this round is kind of irrelevant at this point. Hive, they get the domination, and that will be a 3-1 lead as we're going to run into a bit of a stalemate in the next round, in the second. Not now.
Yo, but that Scion can put in work. Don't doubt it, all right?
I don't. We've seen it happen. Okay? Seen it happen.
Big Scion fights out here.
Shoot, man. I do want to know if this is where F&I places a power weapon. And if they're going to do so, they need to place it on Overlook and not in Hell. And the reason why I say that is because the Overlook fight's been better. But no, they're going to keep business as usual. They're not for 3-3-0 Fire and Ice or win the series in general, guys. They avoid relegation. Fire and Ice will be down there with discipline, and things will stay as they are. If Fire and Ice does make a comeback miraculously in this series, then they will, in fact, win the head-to-head and then force Hive to beat E United. If they don't, well, then Hive will be relegated. But regardless, though, Hive is well on their way to avoiding relegation, something that they desperately needed to do. Fight on the bottom side. We do get pressure down. Toxic will take down Gary eventually with that ensign, and that's going to make it a bit more even or a bit more one-sided for Fire and Ice. But Addvers putting up one great fight, but he's finally going to drop F&I. Good initial.
Toti will take over the top of the Overlook and just try to play a little defensively here. He's going to try to sneak one player, at least with some damage. Second shot doesn't connect the way that he wanted to. Kardia will get the down and the kill. Big kill there to kind of help his team out for just a moment. He had some shots, though, at the top from Gary. Trying to add that damage, but Kardia gets tagged up from that top Overlook spot. Nash is going to push back down now, and ooh, Addvers on a big flank here. If he's going to get called out, it needs to be by Solar, but Solar, I don't think has any idea that he's there now. First shot in from Addvers. Second shot goes. Third shot gets the chunk. Now he's got one more in front of him. Toti bounces up with a meat shield. Now has one more player in a 2v1 situation. Goes to the reaction. Stands back like there was a hurricane coming through. Gets the down for the kill. Might try to push into the hill. Solar.
Oh, no.
Waiting arms.
Man.
He said, baby, come here. I'll hold you.
Solar went from waiting to, like you said, into Kardia's arms. That's tough, man, because Solar, he was setting the trap, and as soon as it was time to execute that trap, right, release the beast. Well, then he went right into Kardia's arms and into the barrel of his Nasher. Tough break for him, but that's just the way the cookie ended up crumbling. We do see Fire and Ice 2-2 split, 2 going for E potentially, and 2 maybe rotating over towards D. Player 7, Toxic, might be thinking about land. Speaking of which, great angle from Kardia. I mean, really great angle from Kardia to get that additional damage. And Toti for the cleanups. 1, 2, 3 for Toti in conjunction with Kardia, hitting those beautiful Lancer shots. Now, does Hive want to go for the domination? Well, they don't need to, Colin. They're going to pump the brakes and force Fire and Ice to make another mistake.
Yeah, they're going to make Fire and Ice fight back into that E-hill. You can see 2 players knotted up toward that Overlook. 1 player coming into the backside of them. 4th player come off a respawn and go on over to D. It'll be a 1v1 at D with a 3v3 possible here at B. Gary, big shots on, gets the down with the Boltok. Incendiary long range, and then the headshot from the Boltok. looking like he was out west in the saloon style, waiting for the sun to get to high noon, baby. He hit that thing. Oh boy, put the steel on him.
Rapids wins the fight against Addvers, but it's not going to be enough because, well, player 1 is still living rent-free over at E, and that is going to be round number 5 completed with a 4-1 lead for Hive as they are on the precipice of a 3-0 victory. And, man, we need to see a much-needed answer from Fire and Ice, but I just don't know if we're going to see it. We've seen them go tit for tat in since the Bull Talks. Is this the round where Fire and Ice finally changes up the pacing?
Let's see what Hive does right here. Hive is going to upgrade to that retro probably there.
As they should.
That's the smart play, smart move. And it looks like, yeah. What are we,
really?
Yep.
I don't know.
Taylor, it's inexperience and frustration.
Yeah.
They don't understand that there's other ways out of this, and because of that, they're already frustrated. They're just going to keep kind of grinding it out like, hey, we can win these fights. Hey, we got this talent.
Yeah.
Like, not to mock them, but it's just it's youth, inexperience, and frustration. It's a bad chemical mixture when you're trying to win matches against players that are definitive veterans in our league.
True, but I mean, it's like their best fight calling has been on Overlord. Why not place a Torko up there? Place an Inbar up there. Place a Sniper up there. I don't think they should place it down low. I think Hive is a better flex team. I do. Plus, they're comfortable. Toti loves fighting for that Sniper and health. Again, what does F&I do? They win the fight on E. That's a Torque Bow. That's your neutral hill. You got the 2-1. Like, that should have been the play. Inexperience or not, that's like that's been happening since I've been casting gears. I mean, in Escalation, like, it's just a... But anyways, Fire and Ice off to a great start here. 69, now 70 to 53. They've got the 2-1, but look at Hive calling. They're going for the overextension, and they will, in fact, get the decap on the home hill. Fire and Ice, they've got 2 off the respawn in the name of Toxic and Nash, and they're going to push up and try and retake their home hill.
I like that for a second there. Nash rolled all the way back into his spawn. He said, I'm looking for a friend. Can I get some 911 out here? And all of a sudden, one of his teammates respawned. He said, thank God, I've been looking for you for years. Needed you to come off the spawn. Gary's in a 2v1, bouncing around. The longer he's alive, the harder it is for the teammate over at B to try to win. But he takes another one through the grave, and now the 2v1 over at E will extend out. Solar gets the first shot on. The second player can't rotate in yet. It'll be Toti. Toti pushes up the stairwell. Big shot out of Solar.
Great
one more
fight.
gets the down. Solar needed that. That's a confidence booster if I've ever seen one. Tries to roll up on a third, but Kardia will finally take him down. 2-1 hill advantage goes back the way of Fire and Ice, and they should take the lead here in round number 6.
Yeah, if Fire and Ice starts winning fights like that, you know, it can catapult and snowball into momentum. You know, just getting that savage mentality. I like seeing plays like that. And again, even when we do see Hive trying to break through that choke point, the pressure's on. Toti, though, is going to be the tip of the spear for Hive. He'll push up. Gary, though, is going to be just behind him. Toxic now, forced to back up. He's going to be finished off. We transition now over towards the E fight. Rapids has lost his life. Speaking of which, that's 3 down Solar. Last one up, and Gary, you know, just trying to push that, but he ends up back. I was kind of does he want to fully commit? But I think he got caught out, maybe thinking it was going to be a bit too free to get onto the home hill, maybe expecting Solar to be on that overextension, but found him in his homeland. 30 seconds away is Hive from a 5-1 victory and 3-0 in the series.
I like that by Kardia. It separates the teammates trying to push home to home here. And now all he has to do is get one more kill as a player comes down the back alley, but he's got help, and now it's a 2v2 on the opposite side. Gary tries to push out here. He needs to stay safe in this moment. If I'm Gary, I'm going for the shot over the top. Hey, thanks, bud. Yeah. Also, that's I want you to know, with that double bounce, with that actually with the incendiary that was thrown on that back hallway, they called game. Hive called game with that incendiary.
Well, there it is, and it is in fact going to be game map number 3 done in a fashion of 5-1 Training Grounds Escalation, and that puts Hive 3-0 victory over Fire and Ice. And Colin, they did that in a dominant way to the point where I was not expecting this series to play out the way it did. But you know what? For Hive fans out there, well done and congratulations. And also, for Toti and his crew, man, that right there was a beatdown that they needed to have to gain the confidence to play not only E United tomorrow, but also for Major Weekend coming up, not this weekend, but next. That was a big victory. And not just because they outplayed them mechanically, but the teamwork, lane prioritization, the way that they manipulated the map and manipulated F&I's numbers. that was an experienced beatdown that Hive gave to FNI. That was really refreshing to see.
Yeah, it really showed that Hive was not going to be relegated. And I think that really does come back to what I said in the pregame, not the Gary MVP thing that I wanted to brag about and be braggadocious about, but I assumed that Toti and the boys from Hive were just going to be able to outplan Fire and Ice. They were going to know what they were going to do before they did it. It was one of those things where they were going to watch footage, see what they like to place down on Escalation, see how they like to take the initials on control, and in what control maps they might play them in. This really did look like every time Fire and Ice called whatever it might have been, if you want to go baseball, every time Fire and Ice called the pitch, everybody in the box for Hive knew what to swing. As soon as you go to football, they called an offensive play. They put 8 in the box and shoved it back down their throat when they tried to run the ball. Everything Fire and Ice tried to do, they couldn't figure it out, my man.
And I'm really disappointed in the way FNI didn't respond to that 4-1 deficit heading into the final round that we ended up seeing. Again, place a power weapon in Overlook. Fire and Ice, you were consistently winning that Overlook fight. So why didn't you take advantage of that by giving you essentially a free power weapon? You know, I mean, these little things, they matter. You know, they absolutely matter, and it should have happened, but it didn't. And you say it's, you know, inexperience, and I agree. I think at times it is an experience, but that's, you know, Escalation 101. If you're losing the same fight over and over again, why do you continue to fight that same fight over and over again? Switch it up to your advantage. I don't even think that's an experience. It could be frustration, as you said. I think more so than anything, maybe it was frustration and them just saying, let's just get this over with, you know, because there's no way FNI said we're comfortable with this fight, because they weren't.
No, there was no way that they made that kind of an assumption or made that kind of conjecture about this matchup. I think the thing that's even more surprising to me, and if you look at it, it was how Hive was able to help each other as quickly as they were. It's pretty satisfying to see a team grow, and it's even nicer to see when a team gets a little bit faster as they grow. Early on in this split, Hive, they had to rely on, you know, some flashy plays. They had to rely on some unique styles. And then all of a sudden you could see them kind of getting the reps under their belt, what positions they were going to play, what spots they were going to play. This matchup really showcased that these guys have not only figured that out, but they can get to each other faster because they were going up against 4 very mechanically skilled players in Fire and Ice. So I think that's one of the best things I like to see about this matchup is that Hive has not only started to figure out who they are, but they've also started to add a level of speed that comes with that same repetition.
Yep. Yeah, and that level of speed is going to pay dividends because I always felt they were a bit slower, but now that they are speeding things up, it kind of fits in with the meta. And also the most successful teams, you know, their speed is incredulous. You know, it's incredible. So like that from Hive, I really do. Fire and Ice back to the drawing board, and they really do need to hit it hard because coming major time, hey, that is not the performance you need. But Hive successfully avoids relegation, and that is exactly what they needed to do, and that was the whole point of this series and the importance of it. So well done from Hive with the 3-0 victory. 2 series down, and 1 more to go. And this one coming up is going to be a great one. Team Queso will play against Pittsburgh Knights. PK, they've been incredible as always. Team Queso, they've been on the up and up. This is one you don't want to miss.